Wow, okay, I just watched it for a second time, and that was incredible. That was amazing. Like, it wasn't just, like, a good movie. It wasn't just, like, a good ending to the rebuilds like I thought it would be. I thought it would just be, like, a whatever film. That was genuinely, insanely good, and it adds so much to Ava overall. That was breathtaking. It was incredible. And that was completely unexpected. I was, not a fan of any of the rebuilds. I like the idea of the rebuilds. To remake the series as time passes, as Anno grew, to remake the series as a few movies, flesh out some of the details that needed fleshing out, take out the stupid shit, and perfect the series a little bit more, I think was a great idea. And I think they, for the most part, failed horribly. The first movie was just a kind of better, kind of worse version of the first 6 episodes. The second movie was, it was fun, but it dumbed down pretty much all of the characters to a point where they were unrecognizable. And the third movie was the third movie. So for the most part, I didn't like any of these. I thought 2 was cool for what it was, and I thought 3 looked good. But other than that, Ava was done for me. I didn't really care about this. But I was pretty hotly anticipating the 4th movie. Before all the hype ramped up and everything, they had a music video that came out, and it was, a very slow, peaceful, impactful, calm look into what the next movie could be. Got me excited. Then the 10-minute preview came out that was in Paris. Got me not excited. I thought it was going to be garbage. And, through all the Kanye shit I've been focusing on, I kind of forgot about the movie even coming out. I watched it, and Jesus Christ, it was amazing. This movie, it does everything I wanted it to do, and so much more. It not only justifies all the shitty writing from the other movies, it justifies 3.0 quite a bit, to the point where I kind of like 3.0 now. It makes all of the shitty character writing better, it justifies the existence of the rebuilds, it adds so much to the concept and the idea of Evangelion. Honestly, after this movie came out, I don't know that I can even look at the series the same way again, Without this 4th movie, everything else is completely different. Almost everything about this movie is insane. I watched it 2 times, and it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it feels like 4. It feels really long, but that's a good thing. This movie goes over so much. There are 5 movies in here. There are 5 different incredibly deep stories you can go into. There's so much going on with every single scene. It's just full of incredible imagery. The movie looks really, really good. This looks like something from a completely different studio. Those other movies, the other rebuilds and the other stuff Kara's done, they looked good, but they didn't look amazing like this did. This is actually one of the best looking anime films I've ever seen, which is not something I was expecting to say about this. And there's so much I love about this movie. The characters are fully fleshed out. I love Rei in this. I hated Rei in all the other rebuilds movies. I like Asuka in this. I hated her. I like Shinji in this. I like Mari now. Come on. And the soundtrack too. The soundtrack is insane. People talk about the rebuild movies always having good soundtracks, but I never really agreed. I think 1.0 has the best soundtrack. I've listened to 1.0 soundtrack so many times, and that's mainly because it's just the original OST from NGE, but just remixed and remastered. But it's still really good. I love the soundtrack in all of Ava. I think it has one of the best scores of any medium or any movie or any show I've ever seen. I genuinely think that if these scores and soundtracks were disconnected from the anime, they would be recognized as some of the best orchestral pieces ever written. They're so good. And in 2.0 and 3.0, Shiro Sagasu, the composer, he wrote some great tracks, but I think most of it was just the typical hype choir music stuff, you know what I mean? So I think you lost a lot of that there. But in this movie, you have a great mix of the cool hype music, but you also have these beautiful, beautiful new pieces of music that I think even maybe compete with End of Evangelion's score. It sounds so good. But don't get me wrong, this movie is far from perfect. The first time I watched this movie, I was done with it. I quit. I screamed at the TV a lot of times. There's this one part, and I guess I'm not doing super spoilery stuff, but there's this one part that you'll know what I'm talking about if you saw it, nearing 3/4 of the way through the film, where it gets really, really stupid. The writing is bad. The action looks like garbage. There are a lot of problems with that one part, but rewatching it, and once you understand why that was all there, and you understand the concepts, it wasn't just a bad remake of this, it was intentional. Some of that was intentionally bad for the full scope of the movie. I mean, it's still not great. The movie really slows down in a couple parts, but I think overall, it still works really, really well. And, you know, this movie not being perfect is fine. I think End of Evangelion is perfect. I think it's a complete, like a perfect film beginning to end. But what End of Evangelion is doing and what this is doing are completely different. Like, End of Evangelion is 2 episodes. It feels like 2 really, really well-produced episodes that end the series. This feels like, I don't even know. This feels like a whole new series. This feels like so different, and they try so many different things that, like, it's okay. I think this is still a masterpiece, like, but it's definitely got some flaws. And I actually think conceptually, this movie has the biggest problem, where I think as a conclusion to the Rebuild movies, this movie sucks. This movie's really, really bad if you are watching it to conclude the Rebuilds. I don't think this movie works at all in that way. And I don't honestly think anybody that only watches the Rebuilds will get anything out of this. I think they'll understand the basic concepts, but this movie doesn't work as an ending to the Rebuilds. What it works as is a companion piece and an end to all of Evangelion. I think when you're watching it with all of the prior knowledge from, you know, EOE, NGE, and like when you really understand those things, watching this is mind-blowing. This is like End of Evangelion again, but more, and like way more going on, way more concepts, way more stuff. Like, this is just, it's insane. And it honestly feels pretty disconnected from the other Rebuilds. I mean, it's 8 years later from Anno making the movie that he made like 5 years later from 2.0. Like, obviously it wasn't going to feel like a direct follow-up, and I'm actually really happy it doesn't. But this, by, you know, it A, helps the Rebuilds by justifying their existence, but it also B, destroys them, because I'm never going to go back and watch like 1.0 again after this. This makes 1.0 the worst film, which is pretty surprising, but I'm never going to go back and watch that. I'm never going to go back and watch like any of those with the same way again, because this is just so much better. This is so good that it makes everything else look like garbage. I mean, like, it's shocking. I can't wrap my mind around how good this movie is. And like, the feeling I got from watching End of Evangelion, that first time I watched it, rewatching it, that 2 weeks after watching that, I'm getting kind of the same thing from this. I don't cry during movies or anything. I've never cried during a movie before. But I was texting my friend during the second time I watched this, and in just the first 50 minutes, I choked up and teared up 9 times. And that's not because, like, sad shit happens. That's just because, like, the pure, like, emotion and beauty of everything you're seeing and hearing is just so overwhelming. And during the last, and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, during, like, that last part, I was fully weeping. I would, like, tears down my face, like, choking. I've never done that for a movie before. And, this, like, you know, I don't know. It's easy, I think, to compare this to End of Evangelion, but I don't think that's really fair. Both movies are trying very different things, and they're doing very different things, but I don't know. The emotion and the impact is really there for both, and I think this is genuinely a better ending to the series than EOE was. I think this is a beautiful, beautiful way to end the series. I think Anno really knocked it out, and I'm happy. I'm genuinely really happy this is how Evangelion ends. And yeah, I think it's the perfect send-off for the series. I think it's beautiful. It's mind-blowing. It's every single one of those words a Rotten Tomatoes reviewer would use. It's indescribable. It really is. I'm shocked. I'm still in awe. 2 days later, I can't. I don't even have words for it. So I'll probably do a more in-depth review later on someday. But for now, yeah, go watch it. It's incredible. Anyway, but if you had the same reaction I did, where you were watching the movie and you're a big fan of Ava and EOE and all that other stuff, and you started seeing what was happening and you just thought it was like, you know, doing that, watch it again. I think with the context of how the movie goes, it's a lot better. A lot of the flaws in that part, I think, are intentional. I don't know. I'm still processing it, but you know, it's a great film. Watch it again. Watch it a couple times. It's better on the rewatch, but you know, it's good every time. Anyway, yeah, subscribe if you want to. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but yeah, if you want to watch more, watch more. So, I'll see you later.